Good morning and welcome to my hobby bench yet again. And as you can see on the table, I have a Webra Speed 61 RC engine. Now I've had this engine for quite some time. This was an engine that came to me in several boxes of engines that a subscriber and friend Mike sent to me back in November of 2022. And this engine was shown very briefly in a Engines Galore, it was titled, video where I showed what I thought were the best or the running engines of that. And this was just featured in a very short segment at the end of that video. So I said when I got this, I said, and in that video I said that I thought that this was a running engine or would be a runner. Well, about, I don't know, 7-8 months ago, I pulled it out. It felt like it had decent compression, and I put it on the stand in my garage, didn't make video, and I did attempt to run this. Now it started and ran, but as soon as it got hot or up to full speed, it just shut down. And it would lose compression. So I was like, well, that's interesting. Well, I'm going to show you why that is and why I'm showing you this engine right now. But let's go through everything that came in this box once again, just for those that are really interested. Now, the Webra Speed 61 engine, from the earliest review that I can find, came out in 1974. And these were produced, manufactured in West Berlin, according to that review article. Let's see here if I can see anything on this box that says anything about where. Well, this one says made in Austria, so apparently maybe this was not as old as I thought. I was hoping to see that it said West Berlin, but what came with this was a lot of paperwork, and these were imported into the country under MRC, Model Rectifier Corporation, which also did Enya engines at that time. Now this is a MRC Webra engine parts list, which I think is interesting because there were some things that were missing from this. I think the original prop washer and nut were missing. I don't know if, I think right now Mikoa is the exclusive distributor owner of any Webra stuff. They might have some of those on hand. So that was a parts list for that. One of these is a parts list for Enya engines. Yes, this is parts list for an Enya engine. Some of them, it looks like 09 through the 60 Mark III, some marine engines, so throttle valve parts, so some carb parts. So this is pretty interesting stuff here. Not like you're going to be able to use this information and go find any of these parts, unfortunately, but it's kind of interesting. Now this is one thing that I think is really interesting, at least to my friend in Germany, Uwe, is that it came with instructions both in English and in German. And I believe that this is so fragile, so delicate. I think I actually made a copy of this and sent it to him. And Uwe, when you watch this, if you don't have it, let me know and I will make a copy of that and send it to you. What is this one? This is another parts list for something. Diesel engines. Webra diesel engines, glow plug engines. That's interesting. So it came with some paperwork that you wouldn't find ordinarily. Let me move this stuff out of the way. So this is part of the engine. This is the main part of the engine. I want to take these items out of here first, and I'll explain some of them individually. So this is the engine, the main part of the engine. Let me zoom in just a bit here. It says right here, made in Austria. Doesn't look like it's in too bad a shape. The only thing that I've had several Webra engines in the past and some of the 4-strokes, and I just never really cared for the fact that they always use strap-on mufflers. Now the exhaust that I've got here is not is not a Webra exhaust, and actually the prop washer and nut I just put on here because it needed something to hold this in place is not stock either. But anyway, this engine at the time seemed like it had good compression, and based on the carb that came with this engine, that's why I was hoping or thinking that this might have been a 1974-ish or at least a late 70s model engine because of this type of carb. Because the later speeds went to the Dynamix carb, which I've got several older, very older videos on the operation and operation setting and the mechanical features of this strange Dynamix carb, which actually is a really nice working carb. But this was an older carb. Now, so like I said, I ran this thing and it kept shutting down. I was like, well, this thing is just a piece of crap. I'm not going to deal with it. So I chucked it in the box and let it sit for months and months again, until about 4 weeks ago or so. I pulled it out and I was like, I'm kind of looking for some subject matter for some videos. Let me take a look at this engine real quick. So I took the front housing off, which I'm going to do here again, and took the head off, pulled the piston out, and as soon as the piston came out, I found this. The piston ring was broken. So when it broke or how it broke, I cannot say. All I can say is that it seemed to have decent compression when I would turn it over by hand with a plug in there, and it fired up. Now, whether the ring was always broken or broke during running, I don't know. I've never encountered a broken ring. I don't think that I recall ever encountering a broken ring within an engine like that before. I mean, I'm sure it happens. I've just never encountered it. So I'm not sure when or how this ring broke. The bottom line is the ring is broke. Well, no big deal, because Bjorn Ball in Midland, Texas, the owner of MJ Art. Here, let me pull all this out and show you. RMJ, what is it? RMJ Machine Works. And I got another nice decal. Creates making custom and reproduction piston rings for small and vintage engines. So once again, I called upon Bjorn to make a ring for this engine, and that's what I'm going to do now. Is I'm going to install this ring in this engine. But so I was like, well, for $25, $30, whatever a ring costs, I will invest that in this engine and see if we can't at least make this a running engine. Now, I wasn't shooting video at that time, which is kind of why I'm doing it now. I want to take another closer look at, I have not done anything to the internals of this engine as far as cleaning or anything like that. So exactly what you see here is exactly what I saw when I opened it up the first time and discovered the broken ring. So the funny thing is, this seems to be a pretty used engine.
I don't know that maybe I wiped that. I don't think I wiped that.
But I believe that somebody may have actually just done some work on this engine.
Here's the underside.
I believe that the bearings were replaced in this engine just because of the fact that the bearings are silky smooth. I mean, they really are. So, and that's curious, because if I'm correct in assuming or stating that this engine or fairly recently had new bearings put in it,
what the hell happened with the ring?
I don't know. All I can tell you this is, I got the last ring I got from Bjorn was for the OS50 FSR engine, and I broke that ring. That was completely my fault. Didn't have it in the right spot. Didn't have it in the pin, on the pin. So that was completely my fault for breaking that ring. And I broke it not in trying to run it, I broke it in trying to reassemble the engine. So this should just pop right off here and there.
So here's the front housing.
And I know you can't feel this or see it, but I mean, maybe you can. Oh, there's even new gaskets on there.
I mean, this engine looks like
It's very clean, like it was just rebuilt. New bearings and everything. I mean, they're really, really nice looking bearings. Take this off. This has got a what do you call those things? A Woodruff key in there.
See?
I mean, so this is really, I'm not going to try and push that out. There's no need in that. In fact, I want to try and just put this back on without disturbing that Woodruff key. Those things can be a little maddening to me at times. So, I mean, this engine seems like it was recently rebuilt. And that's odd. So here's our exhaust. I'm going to pull this thing up.
Pull the piston out.
And obviously the ring is off. But while it's in this orientation, I want to see where the pin, so the pin for the piston or the ring is right there. I might have to run and see if I can't get a marker real quick. So I'm feeling the inside of this. I don't think this sleeve's going to come out. I don't think there's really any need for it to come out. Let me pause the video here, go get a couple of paper towels, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I got a paper towel here. So let's look at this piston.
Hopefully you can see that.
There's a little bit of marking on it. Doesn't look like it's really damaged. I don't feel any damage. Got a little oil on it from the last time I ran it. Is there damage to the top of the piston? I don't think so. Okay, so where did I see that pin? That pin was here. So the pin lines up. I don't think I'm going to be able to show you this. Maybe it'd be better if the sleeve was out. It lines up in an area of the sleeve that doesn't have any porting on it so that it can make compression. I'm just kind of wiping this. See what kind of stuff we come out with. Not too dirty. I really just want to feel inside here because I think I'm no auto mechanic and I don't do rings in automobiles or anything like that, but I believe, and I think I'm 100% correct, that in an automobile, if somebody were to rebuild the engine and put new pistons and new rings in, they do what's called honing the sleeve. And honing the sleeve, as far as I understand, is simply just kind of grinding or sanding or polishing it to a certain point to get any carbon residue off or any other irregularities that might be on the sleeve. So that's what I'm feeling for. Now in the past I have used like 400 or 600 grit sandpaper to hone the inside of a sleeve. Now I'm looking in here. I'm going to stick my head in here real quick under the lights or move it over here. I'm not seeing or feeling any kind of damage to the sleeve, so I am going to forego the honing process on this just because I probably really wouldn't know what the heck I was doing with it anyway. One of the things I am going to do is I'm going to lube this all up again. And I'm going to pull that ring out. I'm going to lube, generously lube the inside of this sleeve. And then we're going to install the ring. Now, what I purchased from Bjorn was a gapped ring. I always buy the gapped rings from him. Now, he did contact me. Apparently, Webra has several different thicknesses of rings. He contacted me before he made this, because this is a freshly made ring. Contacted me before and had me verify the thickness of my ring before he made it. So I had to get my calipers out and measure it, and I sent a picture of that to him. So here's my ring. New ring from Bjorn. I'm gonna put some lube on it too. Now what I want to do here is I want to find where that pin is. See, that's the thing I don't understand. I just want to make sure I put this in the right spot. So it can either go this way, because see, by the carbon residue, it looks like this is the exhaust side, but that wouldn't make sense because it either goes this way,
like this, which isn't the
exhaust side. That puts the ring, the gap, where's that pin now? Looks like the pin is right here. puts the pin right here, which is going over one of the bypass or the exhaust ports. So that clearly isn't right. So it has to go this way, which would mean it's going to be going up and down between some of those intake or bypass ports. So what I'm going to do here is find where that pin is and very gently start working, attempt to work this ring around there. And the ring is installed right now. And
I did not.
get a marker. Now see, I can easily rotate this around, and that's not a good thing. So I have to squeeze it and hold it over that where the pin is. Again, I am no expert on installing piston rings by any means. All I'm trying to do is squeeze it around that pin and drop it in the sleeve here. I'm pulling down with my thumb on the bottom of the connecting rod.
I'm going to shut the video off here because it's going to take me a few minutes, I think, to finagle this.
Okay, it was only about, I put my magnifier on, not like that helped. It was only about 10 seconds after that that I managed to get this in place. Now I'm going to be extremely careful here. I'm going to put some oil in here. Not to rotate this around. So let's see how far. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I put it together and I didn't engage the crank pin. That's exactly what I knew was going to happen or thought was going to happen. I've got to have this up to a certain point. That crank pin will engage in that. Let's see if I can keep that. It would be easier if I did it at bottom dead center, or does it really make a difference? How high up is that? Okay, there, I got it. See, the beautiful thing about these is you can sit here and rotate the front housing around and it doesn't really matter. As long as you're just getting the crank pin on the connecting rod there. So, in theory, although the weather kind of has taken a downturn here, in theory this will be ready to run today. Now, obviously there'll be the first run will definitely have to be more of an easy break-in run to get this ring to seat. So I'll probably try the best I can to adhere to a better, more proper ring breaking in procedure, which means it'll be a lot lower speed or lower RPM type run for at least seating the ring. You know, I don't know that I've ever read any instructions or seen any written instructions about how to properly seat and break in. I know it'd be basically a whole new break-in process, but for a new ring on a used engine. I don't know that I've ever seen that. I mean, aside from maybe the honing aspect of the sleeve that I also chose not to do. I suppose that would be kind of important. Possibly.
Without the head on, it's even.
Making a suction sound, so that's a good thing. So Bjorn, thank you once again for providing me with another high quality ring. And I mentioned this in, I don't know, a video a little while ago, weeks ago or so, months possibly, about buying engines that are ringed engines now as opposed to buying used or new engines that are ABC. Is my preference is to be buying engines with rings, and Bjorn is the reason why. Because an ABC piston sleeve is a matched set, and good luck finding any ABC pistons and sleeve matched sets to go with any engine probably over even 10 years old at this point. But yet you can find rings, or Bjorn can make you rings. Go to his website and look at the extensive list of rings that he can manufacture and restore basically a lot of older engines. I mean, it's just incredible. Oh my, just by sticking my finger over here. Oh, the compression is so good I can barely even turn that over. Of course, my hands are also a little greasy. I don't think I loosened these up at all. So this engine is basically ready to go now. Now, the other thing I have to mention here, I can't recall his name. I think his name is Mark. The guy I got the Rossi engine from at the West Bend RC show, not this year, but last year. When I got this engine, I was so excited about it, I didn't even notice it in that first video. The low-speed needle was missing. And Mark came through and had a low-speed needle for this engine, and he sent it to me free of charge. So Mark, I want to thank you very much for that, because that helped enable getting this engine in an operational state. So just for grins, we're going to put this on here and kind of give you an idea what this little thing will look like. It's kind of a badass looking exhaust. Now, it was customized for this engine. It says Webra and somebody's initials, FF Webra 61. And you can see, possibly you can see how whoever made this fit this engine, they had to do a little bit of grinding on the case of the engine to get it to fit. But it does fit well, and it will seal, and it sounds pretty cool. So that's our video for today. This Webra Speed 61 engine. And like I said, I've never really been a fan of these clamp-on exhausts. But that's our video for today. New ring installed. Next video of this engine will be of it running for the first time in my possession, for you, I guess. Thank you for watching.